Well, the National Memorial Institute for the Prevention of Terrorism, often referred to as MIPT, is the world's largest public source of information on terrorism. Located adjacent to the Oklahoma City Murrah Building Bombing Memorial, the Institute is internationally recognized. Earlier, I sat down with MIPT Executive Director Donald Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton, is the United States a safer place than it was in 1995 with the Murrah Building bombing?
No. We have done more to protect ourselves, but the threat has grown faster. In 1995, not only did we not know there was an Al-Qaeda, it existed, but its actions were more scattered. You had the 93 attack against the World Trade Centers. We didn't know at the time that that was part of a much larger conspiracy. And we didn't pay much attention in 96 when Osama bin Laden declared war on the United States. People have declared war on the United States a lot. That doesn't mean we have to declare war back. Usually when isolated individuals are out there saying they're at war, you always prefer to try and handle this as a criminal matter. This became more serious with the bombings of the U.S. embassies in 1998 in Dar es Salaam and in Nairobi. And then, of course, we knew we had to take Osama bin Laden seriously, very seriously, after September 11th. We're safer now than we were on September 11th, 2001, but not as safe as we were before 1995.
It feels as if there are many more security measures now in place. Also feels as if there's many more threats now in place. Am I just being naive that were those threats already there and we just didn't know about them?
No, they weren't already there. Not on the scale that they are now. The United States has always been the country that has had the most attacks on its interests around the world. Long before most Americans were paying attention to terrorism, we had little attacks on U.S. symbols around the world, mostly in Latin America. Someone would throw a Molotov cocktail at the Bank of America in Santiago, Chile. And I mean, the wire services wouldn't even run that story in the United States. Nobody ever knew about it. I mean, it barely made the Chilean papers. So the threats were there, but they were very much different threats.
Now, I have had a security officer from a Democratic country that was very critical of the way that we've handled our terrorist threat in this country, saying that we're doing a lot of things that probably aren't working, that are maybe more for show, and that if we were ever going to truly be serious about fighting terrorism in this country, we were going to have to do things that we might find distasteful, whether it be profiling, whether it be more cameras on the streets like they have in the UK. A reaction there?
There are things about the way we have responded to terrorism that I don't think have been perfect. Cameras on the streets don't worry me in the slightest. The concept has existed for decades that anything you do on the public streets in a public place is done without expectation of privacy.
Mr. Hamilton, is terror just one of those threats that we're going to have to live with in this changing world?
The threat of terrorism certainly is. Terrorism can be thwarted, but probably not 100% of the time. Maybe even 99% of the time. But the impact of terror spreads beyond that. I mean, you wouldn't fly on an airline that had a 99% safe arrival rate. That just wouldn't do. We have to get used to the idea that terrorists are going to hit us somewhere, some terrorists, somewhere, sometime. And we need to keep a kind of perspective about this. Terrorists are not going to permanently damage the United States by killing us off. They might permanently damage the United States if we refuse to think about who they are and what they're doing and how we need to respond.
So what is it that makes a terrorist?
A terrorist makes himself. A terrorist decides that he is willing to kill innocent people in order to achieve some political aim. And mostly, he does it by saying, I'm going to make innocent people my target. That's how he differs from a soldier. That's how you can easily define a terrorist by saying he is a war criminal without a uniform.